I'm writing this in my fitness log and setting it to automatically post this message and my progress for the day once the day is over. I hope someone sees it. I'd been trying to get into better shape. The doctor said I needed to lose another 40 pounds, and thanks to that trendy vegan diet of mushrooms, seitan, and quinoa, I'd lost about 8 so far. My niece showed me how to install a pedometer application onto my iPhone so I could use it when I jog, and it was fun tracking how many steps I take and how many calories I'd burned. It's like a game. One afternoon, I dropped my phone on the driveway and cracked the front. I worried I'd broken the thing. I called Clarissa from the home phone and she suggested I test it out. If everything worked, I could just ignore the cracked glass. Everything seemed fine except for the phone part. For whatever reason, it shut down every time I tried to pull it up. That didn't matter much though, since I only really used my landline. There was one other issue though. The pedometer app was recording incorrectly. To get from the first to the second floor in my house, you need to climb 14 stairs. I tested the pedometer and it counted 15 steps. I tried again on the way down. 17. To be honest, I felt a little dejected. I'd really gotten into my fitness regimen and I'd loved the charts and graphs the pedometer program used to show my progress. Now, with the numbers being inaccurate, all those pretty progress trackers would be pointless. I did my best to swallow my disappointment and kept telling myself the charts and stuff didn't matter. The exercise was the only important thing. So I kept going. I still used my pedometer as a reference, but I don't bother tracking anymore. Time went by and I must have gotten into a groove because I was losing weight and getting into better shape quicker than I thought. I felt great. Even at 56 years old, I had the energy of someone 20 years younger. When I visited the doctor for another checkup, I complained to him about recurring pain in my shins and feet. Apparently one of the problems with exercising when you're overweight is it can take a toll on your legs and feet. I should have known. He told me to ease up on the jogging until the pain went away, and then I could slowly work back up to it. I decided to take his advice about the jogging, but I'd walk instead. I wasn't just going to sit on my ass and do nothing. I'd lose all the progress I made. So, every evening I walked. Out of habit, I'd check the pedometer app every now and again. Before it broke, it took me a little over 2,000 steps to walk a mile. Now, it was registering between 2,500 and 4,000 for the same distance. I would have found the wildly inaccurate readings funny if my legs and feet didn't hurt so much. It wasn't as bad as when I jogged, but it was still painful. I started to worry I'd have to stay on the couch for a while after all. This morning, I decided to take a good, long jog before I took a full week off to give my body time to recover. Instead of my usual mile, I decided to do 3. I knew I couldn't run the whole thing, but I'd slow down and walk until I was able to jog again. The local high school track has a rubberized surface, so I figured that'd be less detrimental to my legs and feet. Still, before I left, I popped a few ibuprofens, knowing my lower half would be really angry with me the whole way. But despite my impending pain, I was excited to push myself. I knew something was wrong after the first mile around the track. I was absolutely exhausted. I looked at the stopwatch part of the pedometer, and it seemed right. 13 minutes, 19 seconds. Not a time to write home about, but much faster than when I first started jogging. My breathing was awful, though. I was huffing and puffing, and it was only through sheer will that I made it the first mile at all. I slowed to a walk, and my shins screamed at me. While I walked, I swiped over from the stopwatch to the pedometer. And even as I choked for each breath, I managed to bark out a joyless laugh. The pedometer, which I'd zeroed out before I'd started, read 15,000 steps. I kept watching the pedometer as I ambled forward, dreading the moment when my breathing would slow and I'd be able to jog again. With each step, the numbers got even crazier. 15,015, 15,110, 16,274. My ankles felt like they were going to crumble underneath me. Obviously, I was far less ready than I thought to attempt a longer distance, especially with my legs and feet in such bad shape. Still huffing and puffing, I decided to give up and headed back for the car. With each step, I still watched the pedometer. 17,990, 19,333, 22,009. When I reached the car about 100 feet away, it said 54,001. I collapsed into the driver's seat. I was worried I was having a heart attack. I'd never been so exhausted in my life. Gradually, though, my breathing returned to something resembling normal. It was at that point I noticed both my sneakers were soaked with blood. Gritting my teeth, I started the car and drove home. It's been 2 hours since I got back. I'm on the floor in too much pain to move. When I walked a short distance from my driveway to my front door, the pedometer readout went from 54,001 to 312,376. I fell in a heap in the front hallway and tried to get a grip on what was going on. My feet were in agony. I carefully removed the bloody shoes as I pulled off my socks. All the nails tore off my toes. As if that weren't bad enough, the bottoms of my feet were raw and dripping with blood. The bleeding slowed after a while, but I am in terrible pain. I'm typing this out on my phone right now because I need to use the bathroom. I need to eat something. I need to go on with my day. But I'm terrified to get up. I know I should call 911, but my landline phone is 2 rooms away. I don't know what will happen if I take another step. No, fuck it. I can't stand the thought of being helpless, of being a cripple. I'm not just gonna sit here and be afraid. I'm going for the phone.
End of day auto update. May 15th, 2016. Complete. Progress. 19,244,774,002 steps. Keep up the good work.
My wife is going to be the death of me. The thought preoccupied me for almost 8 weeks. All she cared about was sex. It's not like I'm some kind of Adonis or even particularly good in bed either. Something just clicked one day. She became utterly insatiable. I'm 90% sure it's because of that vegan diet we started 2 months ago, with all the mushrooms and stuff, but the diet's effect on me was nothing compared to how she reacted. She never seemed interested in analyzing the reasons. She just knew what she wanted. That's all there was to it. At first, I thought this was great. She'd be waiting for me in bed when I got home from work. We'd have a few minutes of fun, and that was that. For me, at least. Diana, it seemed, needed more than I could give her. I felt pretty bad because I wasn't able to provide it. I know part of my terrible performance had to do with my diet. It had been awful. Since I'm so busy with work, I'd been stress eating fast food, other processed garbage. Even though I was eating the vegan stuff too, I'd supplement it with Burger King. I'd gained weight. I felt awful. I was tired all the time. When Diana's insatiability became apparent and my own inability to satisfy her was weighing heavily on my confidence, I set out to get healthier. I mean, it was the least I could do. Not only for Diana, but for my own well-being. And it's worked, too. The last week has been incredible. I've taken time off work, I've exercised every day, and all my meals are healthy, vegan, and loaded with good stuff like kale, quinoa, and tons of local mushrooms. I think Diana was pleased with the positive changes in me, although her sex drive was still astronomical and hard for me to match. I felt better about myself, and I enjoyed our lovemaking a lot more. There was just less pressure, if that makes sense. Last night was our anniversary, so I wanted to do something special, something non-vegan as a treat. I made steaks with a portobello nouveau and peppercorn cream sauce. I remember laughing to myself as I reduced the pan sauce and plated our meals. Diana always used to be allergic to mushrooms. Deathly allergic, in fact. I don't know what compelled her to serve them for dinner a couple months ago when we started doing the vegan thing, but the difference it made was staggering. Ever since she went to bed that night, she's been a different woman. I brought our meals up to the bedroom. Diana was waiting for me. She looked beautiful. Sexy, too. She was sprawled across the bed on her back, presenting herself to me. It was her favorite position ever since her sex drive skyrocketed. I told her to hold her horses. She could wait until after dinner. She didn't reply, but she let me feed her bits of steak and mushrooms. I emptied her perfect mouth of the food I'd put there at dinner the night before and replaced it with our anniversary meal. My head spun with love and affection as I carefully pushed a piece of juicy steak down her throat. I marveled at how the hot meal warmed her mouth. After dinner, I could no longer resist my wife's allure. We made quiet love in our candlelit bedroom, and when we were finished, as I was tucking her into bed, I noticed small growths in her armpits and behind her ears. I turned the lights on, looked more closely. Tiny, stringy mushrooms. New life. I smiled. We were going to be a family.